Everyone smiled, laughed, and danced at the wedding. But when the bride's paralyzed sister tried to join, the room froze. People turned away, pretending not to see her struggle. No one moved, until one man stood up. The grand wedding hall shimmered under golden chandeliers, their warm glow bouncing off crystal glasses and polished marble floors. Laughter, clinking cutlery, and the steady rhythm of music created an atmosphere of pure celebration. Guests moved gracefully across the room, their elegant dresses and pressed suits painting a perfect picture of joy. At the center, the bride stood radiant in her white gown, her smile wide as she held her father's arm. Everywhere you looked, there was excitement and love, except in one quiet corner where a young woman sat silently in her wheelchair. She was the bride's younger sister, a once lively girl who had been paralyzed after a tragic accident months before. Her dark eyes followed the dance floor, her lips curved in a small, polite smile that masked the storm inside her heart. She wanted to join them, to laugh, to spin, to feel free again. But her legs refused. As the celebration grew louder, her presence became quieter, almost invisible. Guests walked past her chair without a second glance, their conversations filled with toasts, business deals, and family gossip. Some noticed her but quickly looked away, as if acknowledging her pain might spoil the evening. The bride, caught up in the whirlwind of her special day, barely spared her a moment, and her father, the wealthy CEO, pretended not to see the sadness in his younger daughter's eyes. To him, appearances mattered more than feelings, and tonight was about prestige, not vulnerability. The young woman's heart ached with every laugh that wasn't shared with her, every dance step that reminded her of what she had lost. She folded her hands tightly in her lap, forcing her smile to stay in place even though it trembled at the corners. Deep inside, she longed for someone, anyone, to see past her wheelchair and speak to her like she mattered. But the night carried on without pause, each moment pressing her deeper into isolation. The room sparkled with music and joy, but around her, there was only silence. That silence, heavy and suffocating, grew until it felt unbearable. And just when she thought the loneliness would consume her, a gentle voice broke through the noise, soft but steady, directed only at her. The young woman lifted her head slowly, surprised that someone had spoken directly to her. A man she hadn't noticed before was standing just a few steps away, holding a small plate of food and balancing it carefully with one hand. His suit wasn't expensive, not like the others around the room, but he carried himself with quiet confidence. Beside him, a little boy clung to his arm, wide-eyed and shy in the sea of glittering guests. The man smiled gently at her and said, "These parties can be a little too much, can't they?" His tone wasn't one of pity but of understanding, and for the first time that evening, her forced smile turned into something real. She nodded, her eyes meeting his, silently grateful that he saw her as more than just the chair she sat in. While others passed by without thought, this stranger leaned down to his son and whispered something before guiding him toward her. The boy hesitated, then offered her a small cupcake from his plate, his innocent eyes filled with warmth. The gesture was so pure, so untouched by judgment, that she felt tears prick the corners of her eyes. The man introduced himself quietly as a single dad, explaining they had been invited because he worked with the groom on a community project. His presence wasn't grand or boastful. It was simple, sincere, and exactly what she had been longing for all night, someone who saw her, not her condition. Around them, the music played on, the laughter echoed, and the lights shimmered, but in that small circle of connection, the world felt different. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel invisible. She felt seen. The CEO had been busy entertaining investors and greeting wealthy guests when his eyes wandered across the ballroom, and what he saw made him pause mid-sentence. His daughter, usually left alone in the corner, was smiling, truly smiling, for the first time in months, and it wasn't because of him, or any of the people he had invited. It was because of a man he didn't know, and a child who seemed to have broken through the wall of silence surrounding her. The CEO's chest tightened, an unfamiliar mix of anger and guilt rushing through him. How could a stranger do in moments what he, with all his money and influence, had failed to do for years? He excused himself and strode toward them, his presence commanding enough to draw the attention of others. The crowd hushed slightly, sensing tension in the air. The single dad noticed the sharp expression on the CEO's face but stood his ground, his hand gently resting on his son's shoulder. "She deserves to be seen," he said softly, yet firmly, before the CEO could speak. His words struck like lightning, cutting through the music and chatter. The room fell even quieter as the CEO's daughter looked up at her father, her eyes filled with something he hadn't seen in so long: hope. Guests exchanged whispers, stunned that someone would dare speak so boldly to the most powerful man in the room. The CEO clenched his jaw, not out of rage at the man, but at himself. For years he had provided wealth, security, and luxury, yet failed to give his daughter what this stranger had offered in a single evening: dignity, attention, and kindness. For the first time, the mighty CEO didn't feel powerful at all, he felt small, and deeply humbled. The ballroom seemed frozen as the CEO stood before his daughter, his pride clashing with the weight of truth pressing down on him. For years, he had thought success was measured in numbers, contracts, and applause, but in that quiet moment, staring into his daughter's hopeful eyes, he realized he had failed her in the most human way. His chest ached as he slowly knelt beside her wheelchair, ignoring the stunned gasps of the guests. His hand trembled as it reached for hers, and when her small fingers curled around his, tears blurred his vision. "I am so sorry," he whispered, his voice breaking, but loud enough for the room to hear. His daughter blinked rapidly, then smiled through tears, a smile that seemed to light every corner of the hall. The single dad stood silently, his son watching with wide eyes as the guests began to murmur with emotion, some wiping tears of their own. For the first time, the CEO didn't care about appearances or reputations. He cared only about being the father his daughter deserved. Rising to his feet, he turned to the crowd. "Tonight isn't about me, or the company, or appearances," he declared. "It's about love, dignity, and remembering that no soul should ever be invisible." The applause began softly, then swelled into thunder as the room erupted with respect. The single dad smiled faintly, squeezing his son's shoulder, knowing they had played their part in something far bigger. The CEO leaned close to his daughter again and promised, "From now on, you will never be overlooked. You are my greatest treasure." And in that moment, surrounded by light, applause, and the quiet beating of hearts finally aligned, the wedding became more than a celebration of union. It became the start of healing, truth, and new beginnings.